That's for the aviation allowances only. And now you also have allowances for the regular ETS, if I may say. So you have three types, basically. You have EU allowances, so the ones that are given by every member state to the various operators according to the national allocation plans. But you also have what is called CER and ERU, which are let's say secondary sets of allowances. I'll discuss those a bit later. And those three types of allowances, they can be exchanged on what is called spot markets, which are regulated by the Kyoto Protocol. And I've listed below the four main spot markets for these allowances. And so you have the ECX, the European Climate Exchange, which is based in the United Kingdom. You have Blue Next market, which is based in France. You also have EEX in Germany. And you also have Nord Pool, which is dedicated to Northern Europe states. Basically, you can register as a trader on any of these markets, and depending on the member state to which you have to submit your reports, you can also register as an operator on those markets. So what will the ETS mean for airlines? So I've prepared those two examples. One for a regional airline which operates turboprops, and the other for, let's say, mid-size airline operating worldwide and operating mostly jet aircraft. So in the case of the regional airline, I've assumed that it's operating 6,000 flights a year and emitting 12,000 tons of CO2. So if I assume that the benchmark decided by European Union is 0.0009, I'll discuss the benchmark mechanism later too. But if we assume this benchmark, then it accounts for 40% of the free allowances for that regional airline, and the remaining 60% will cost the airline between 115,000 euros and 310,000 euros. That's estimations for a price per allowance between 50 and 40 euros. Now, if you look at the case of the mid-size airline, as I called it, it operated nearly 40,000 flights with jet aircraft in a year and emitting 800,000 tons of CO2. So now the same benchmark value for that mid-size airline will represent 85% of its allowances that will be given for free by the member state to which this airline reports. And the 15% remaining allocation will cost the airline between 1.6 billion euros and 4.5 million per year. So you can see that the costs involved in the ETS are really significant. And of course, those costs will appear in the balance sheets of companies. So it's definitely a serious concern and something that should be handled with care. Because even though it might cost a lot for airlines, for the ones that are really dedicated to it, it could generate benefits in the same way as it will for some trader companies. And just overall, some global cost figures for the aviation sector. Various sources reported that the ETS will cost just above 1 billion euros in 2012, and it could cost up to 7 billion euros in 2020, according to Point Carbon. It's worth noticing that the costs reported above do not include compliance costs, which means setting up a monitoring and reporting system and having your emission reports verified. So really significant impact on the aviation industry can be expected from the ETS. So now that I've spoken a bit about the general mechanisms, I'll show you briefly the MRV cycle and the associated deadlines. So obviously the 1st January the airline has to start monitoring of its emissions, so according of course to the methods specified in the European directive. And of course the monitoring period runs from 1st of January to the 31st December of that year. On 28 February, the member state will issue the free allocations to the operator. And best practice suggests to start the annual verification process, not at the last minute, but around September or November, depending on the size of the airline. The important part is that by end December, of course, all is ready so that you can prepare your annual report, so that it can be approved and verified by the verification authorities and submitted to the member state by the 31st of March of the following year. And the critical deadline will be the 30th of April. And basically the 30th of April of every year, the airlines will have to surrender allowances on the national registry. So for every ton of CO2 that was emitted in the year N, one allowance will have to be surrendered on the national registry. I'm going a bit fast on this MRV cycle because it's something that is becoming quite usual, and if you've been involved in ETS before, you heard a lot about that already. And if you haven't been involved in ETS so much before, I'll be more than happy to have a chat with you, or maybe provide your company with a training dedicated to this monitoring, reporting, and verification. But for now, I'll stop there and just record some common rules which are listed in this slide. So, first of all, there is, data simplifying, there is one registry per member state, and this registry will be used for three things. They will be used, first of all, to give free allocations or free allowances to the airlines. They will be, secondly, used by the airline to surrender their allowances, and those allowances, they will be checked by the member state, and they will also be cancelled once they've been checked. So which means that every year there are allowances which will be erased from the system so that the cap remains within the limits decided by the European Union. And the registry of each member state will also be used to keep track of, let's say, the CO2 allowances history of each operator. And that is because the EU directive specifies that for each ton of CO2 which has not been surrendered in time, there is a fine of €100 per ton which applies. And on top of this fine of €100 per ton, there is also a need to report those missing allowances on the following year. So it's like a double penalty if you don't surrender enough allocation. You have to pay the fine for each ton, and you also have to report each ton on the following year. And that's it about the MRV cycle and deadlines. And now we'll discuss a bit more purchase of allowances and the various types of allowances and what strategy you can put in place. So first of all, as I said, the core of the ETS is composed by the what is called the EU registry and the member state registry. So basically the EU registry is a registry for the first EU 15 states. And then for the remaining 15 countries included in the ETS, there is one registry. So, like I said before, with a slight simplification, it's not really one registry per member state. You already have a common registry for the EU 15 countries. And of course, this registry, the objective is to exchange allowances between member states and the operator. So you can see this arrow here going from member state to operator is for basically the gift of allowances from member state to operator, which can be in two ways, either free allocations or either optioned allowances. And the arrow in the other direction is for the operator to surrender its allowances to every member state every year. Now, the spot markets, which we discussed a bit before, they appear on this green circle, which I'm showing here. And basically, this spot market is for exchanging allowances between operators and also in the registry. And in the middle of the figure is what is called the CITL, so Community Independent Transaction Log. And basically this organ is responsible for the tracking and recording of every allowance transaction of the market. So either it happens between operator or between traders on the spot market. In all cases, the transactions, they are recorded in this CITL in the middle, of course, to prevent fraud as much as possible.